Yo, yo, yo. Good morning. Welcome to Power Plays Palace. Power Plays Palace. We back again for another one, man. And let's get down to it. Sorry for the hiccups yesterday. But let's get down to it, man. Let's look at this chart from yesterday. So yesterday, what we were looking at in the pre-market was SPY was up 738.03 for the high, and the low was 735.14. But we were looking at if we got a breakout above the pre-market high of 738.10. We were looking for an entry around 738.10 to 738.70 with a stop below 735.80. Targets being 739, 742, 745, and 748. And if we got a pullback early, like, right before the market opened or right at the market open, and it held, we were looking for a pushback with an entry at 735.20, 735.80, stop below 734. Target being 737, 738.03, 739, and 742. And so that was if SPY pulled back before it started to go up. And if we got a rejection of the pre-market high, we were looking at an entry around 730, 750, 738, stop above 739, target 736, 735.14, 734, and then 730. And if we broke down below the pre-market low and continue to work down, we was looking at targets of 734, 730, 725, and 720 with our entry at 735 to 734.60 with a stop above the 736.20 area. And that's what we were looking for yesterday. So let's actually see what happened on the chart. So what SPY did when it opened up around 736.53. It worked its way all the way up till it got to 739.90. Once it hit that level, it started to pull back. And it pulled all the way back to 732.09, which was the low of the day. And then it started to run up. And then it started to work its way up. And it proceeded to work its way up all day, all the way until it ended the day around 740.89 after reaching a high of 741.56. And so what we had was an early push up, right? Where it went up to 739, but then it pulled all the way back to 732.09, and then it worked its way back up. And it pretty much grinded all day except for this area right here from 10:30 to about 11:30 when it was consolidating, and then it worked its way on up until it got to the 741.57 range. And 56, I'm sorry. And that's when it created that high. But that was at the end of the day. So if you played the chart, with the pullback, it did go below. It did go below at the 739. It did pull back into the chart area in a couple of places because it did break below the 735.14, and it did push all the way down to the 732.09, and that was after it went up right there at the open and broke. It did break the pre-market high, but briefly then it pulled back all the way back. And so you could have got on the put side, you could have hit every level on for rejection at pre-market high for level 1, and on level 2 you could have got to the first could have got to 734. So it went all the way down, and so you had that opportunity. Now on the actual call side, as it started to work its way back up later in the day, now it did push back into the 735.14 area to push past that, but it did go all the way up to 740. So after the pullback, and it didn't find support initially at the 735 area, it went down a little lower than that. But after the pullback, once it started to work its way back up, it still touched on support bounce at 735.14, You still could have played it all the way 737, 738, and 739. So, in a nutshell, on yesterday, the first hour or so of the market, you had that push up and that pull back to get you between the bearish scenario 1 and almost the 2, because it went 736. I mean, it went all the way 739 before it pulled back. But then on the call side, when you got that support push, when it went back into that 735.14 range, you could have still played the 737, 738, 739 all the way up, because it did end up at 741.56. So you could have played that for the rest of the day. So overall, it was a good day on yesterday, and let's see what we got for today. Let's look at the chart right quick. Let's look at the pre-market. So after SPY went and consolidated most of overnight, you see it went 8 o'clock. It kind of stayed in that area at 741 range, and then pre-market, what it has done, it worked all the way up to 742.97, and then it's starting to pull back a little bit. It's already broke back below the pre-market high. I meant the high today from yesterday. After establishing that pre-market high, it's headed toward that pre-market low with over an hour left before the market opens. So we'll see how that turns out going into the market. So we were able to see that happen, and so we did get that. And so right now, what we're looking at is SPY is currently pushing his way down. So we'll see how that kind of turned out. But let's look at the chart for today. All right, so what we got now is the pre-market high 742.57, 740.76. Our key battleground is 740.76, 742.57, and that's gonna be the little chop area right there in between where the pre-market high and low are. But if we get a breakout above that pre-market high at 742.57, we'll look at our entry round 742.60 to 743.20. Put our stop below 741. Target's gonna be 744, 746, 748.50, and 750. And if we get a pullback and support, we got 742.57, 744, and 746. And so that'll be our our market for today. Now, what we do have here is if the market pulls back, you go into that pre-market high and it pulls back, you got entry at 742.60 with a stop above 740. Our target going down will be 741, 740.76, and 739. And then we got our breakdown below the pre-market. If it breaks down below the pre-market, which we just showed on the chart, it's heading that direction. That don't mean that's where it's going to end up. But if that happens, we'll look for our entry around 740.50, 740 with our stop above 741.80. Target's going to be 739, 736.50, and 732.09. And that'll be our targets for today. And we'll go out there and we'll kind of see what happens, man. That's our target market. And that's what we'll do today. And that's our trade plan for today, man. We're going to look and see. But remember, if these things hold up and it breaks above that pre-market high, then we'll look for calls. If it breaks below the pre-market low in the pre-market, then we'll look for puts and see what happens and just play the charts off those levels. All those levels become support and resistance depending on where the market is moving. And that's what you want to be mindful of when you're trading. And so that's our plan for the day. Like I said, this is not financial advice. These are some ideas from a person who trade every day. But if anything I say in the video helps you become a better trader, please like, share, and subscribe. And let's move this thing forward. Now, in the meantime, this your boy, man, checking out Power Plays Palace, man. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Let's get it in, baby, on this beautiful Tuesday. And we out.